Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you. Today, the topic that I'm going to start is the manufacturing accounts for the O level accounts. The code is 7707, right? Before moving ahead, I would like to request to all of you to subscribe our YouTube channel with the name Karachians Academy, right? Now we are moving ahead. I'm going to give you a brief introduction regarding the manufacturing accounts. A manufacturing accounts is prepared in addition to the income statement, right? It's produced for the internal use only. In this, instead of a figure of purchases, the trading account will contain the cost of manufacturing the goods that were manufactured during the period. The manufacturing account is used to calculate and show the cost of goods manufactured or the cost of manufacturing goods. The figure it produces that is used in the trading account is known as the production cost. Right? This is all about the introduction of the manufacturing accounts. Now we are moving towards First, now look at this picture. Every product exists in every product that you see do not exist initially in its actual finished form, right? You have to produce the manufacturing companies converts the raw material into the finished form of the products, right? If you see the raw form of the finished goods, sometimes its physical appearance, sometimes its physical as well as its chemical appearance are totally changed, right? If you take the example of medicine, the raw form of the medicine is in chemicals, right? Those chemicals will be those chemicals, the raw material of chemicals will be shifted towards the factory in which a process which will be applied on the raw material and some further cost will be added here, and in order to convert them into finished products. As the raw material converts 100% in the finished form, it will be shifted in the finished good warehouse, right? There are some in some of the raw material on which 50%, 30%, 70%, 60% of the work has been done and little bit is required to be done. Therefore, those partially completed goods will be termed as the work in progress, right? They are not they are not in the form of raw material, or even they are not considered as the finished goods. Therefore, these partially completed products will be living in the factory with the name as work in progress, right? It means these are those products on which further work has to be done. When these will be completed, it will also be shifted in the finished goods warehouse. Right? This is all about it. Now, it is very important to understand the distinguish between the direct and the indirect cost. Right? If you see, the cost will be classified into direct and indirect cost. What are the direct costs? In manufacturing accounts, it is very much important to understand the differentiation between the direct and the indirect cost. What are the direct costs? The costs which are possible to trace the cost to an item being manufactured will be termed as the direct cost, right? Example, cost of raw material includes the carriage inward on those raw materials, right? Similarly, hire of a special machinery for a particular job. These are the examples of the direct cost. Now we are moving towards the indirect cost. Indirect manufacturing costs are all those costs which occurs in the factory or other place where the production is being done, but when which cannot easily be traced to the items being manufactured. The examples are wages of the cleaners, wages of the crane drivers, rent of the factory, depreciation of the plant and machinery, cost of operating forklift trucks, factory powers, factory lightings, right? These are those costs which we are unable to identify that how much of the portion of this cost will have incurred in order to manufacture a particular product. Okay, therefore these are the costs under which all the products has been manufactured, right? Therefore these are those products which are not easily identifiable, therefore these will be termed as the indirect cost, right? We are moving ahead. Now there are some further terminologies which will be used while preparing or drawing the manufacturing accounts. We should understand what they are. All right. The first one is the prime cost. The sum of all direct cost is called the prime cost, or it is the sum of all direct material, direct labor cost. Okay, direct material, direct labor, or direct expense all as well, right? It means if we sum up the prime cost, actually what it is the sum of all direct expenses or the all direct cost incurred in the factory, right? Now the second terminology is work in progress. What it is, items which have not been completed and therefore cannot be sold, right? It means these are those goods which are neither considered as the raw material nor these will be considered as the finished goods. It means these are those goods which are partially completed, right? In term of material, in term of labor, in term of overheads, right? Now, the third one is administration expenses. Administration expenses consist of such items as managers' salaries, right? Legal and accountancy charges, the depreciation of the accounting machinery, and the secretarial salaries, right? The selling and distribution expenses. Selling and distribution expenses are the items such as sales staff salaries and their commissions, right? Similarly, the carriage outwards, right? The depreciation of the delivery van, advertising and display expenses will be taken in the selling and administration expenses. Now, the financial charges. Financial charges are the expense items such as bank charges and the discounts allowed, right? Now we are moving towards the format which must have to be produced or draw before preparing the P&L account or the income statement account, right? As the manufacturing company does not know its cost of goods manufactured, its cost of goods, therefore as they are not the trading organizations, they are producing or manufacturing the goods by their own. It means they have to calculate their cost of goods manufactured by their own, right? Therefore before moving or before preparing towards the income statement, the manufacturing companies must have to draw the manufacturing account, with the help of which the cost of goods manufactured will be derived, right? This is the format which we will use in order to prepare, in order to find out the cost of goods manufactured or completed. Start with the raw materials opening balance. Write it in the last column. Okay. Then add the purchases of raw material. Write its balance in the second column. If there is any return of raw material subtracted from here, right, in order to get the net purchases, then add the carriage inwards, right? Carriage inwards in the net purchases in order to find out the total value of purchases. The total value of purchases will be written just under the opening raw material balance in the last column, right? Then you will be find out the total raw material available for use in the factory, right? Now what you need to do, you have to subtract the raw materials ending balance in order to drive the raw material consumed, right? This is the amount which has been incurred in order to convert the raw material into finished goods, right? Right? Now what you need to do, you have to add the direct labor. And you know the direct labor are the wage which is being given to those labor which is involved in the manufacturing of goods, right? It means if the wages is being given to the production workers, right? Production workers, which means the workers which are producing or manufacturing the goods, will be termed as the direct labor. Add the direct labor cost, right, in the with the raw material consumed, so that you will find out the prime cost, right? Sometimes in the question the royalties are also given, right? The royalties is also considered as the direct expense. If it is given in the question, what you need to do, you have to write the royalties as a direct expense just under the direct labor, right? Then what you need to do, you have to add these three costs. First is the raw material consumed, then the direct labor, and the royalties as a direct expense in order to drive the prime cost, right? It's the only expense which belongs to the direct cost or the direct expense, right? Now what you need to do, you have to add the indirect manufacturing costs as well, right? These are also those costs which you are incurring in order to manufacture your goods. Okay, these will also be termed as the manufacturing overheads, factory overheads, and only overheads. Okay, manufacturing overheads, production overhead, factory overhead is another name of indirect manufacturing cost. Okay, I have written here some of the examples of indirect cost, right? The first one is the general factory expenses, the lighting expense, power, rent of the factory, power of the factory, rent of the factory, insurance of the factory building, factory equipments, factory machines, any non-current asset which relates or which is linked with the factory. Okay, depreciation of the production machinery, depreciation of the factory building as well, its equipments will also be considered as the indirect manufacturing cost, right? Indirect labor as well, like the cleaner's salary, okay, the supervisor's salary, or the wage of the supervisors or the production head's salary will also be considered as the indirect manufacturing cost. What you need to do, list all the indirect cost in the second column and find its total, and write in the last column just under the prime cost in order to get the total of these costs, right? Finally, what you need to do, you have to add work in progress beginning balance, right? What you need to do, you have to add the balance of the WIP opening right? In order to get the total items put into process. Finally, what you need to do, you have to deduct or less the work in progress ending balance, right, in order to drive or in order to reach to the cost of goods manufactured or completed, right? Now, with the help of this statement, you have determined your cost of goods manufactured or completed. Now you are able to draw the income statement account, right? This is the format which we will use to draw the income statement, right? First, what you need to do, you have to start from the sales. ठीक, write it in the second column. If there is an adjustment like the written output is given, subtract it or less it from the sales, gross sales, in order to get the net sales. The figure for the net sales will be written in the last column. Then what you need to do, you have to deduct the cost of goods sold or the cost of sales, right? um, Right, first, what you need to do first, you have to write the finished goods opening balance, right? Write it in the second column. Add if add the cost of goods manufactured, right? The cost of goods manufactured figure will be obtained, will be taken from the manufacturing accounts, as you have already seen or gone through that with that statement, right? Sometimes it also happens that the company is also purchasing the finished form of inventory from outside. Now what you need to do, you have to write it here, add in the opening balance of the finished goods inventory the purchases of finished goods, right? Then you have to add the cost of goods manufactured, right? In that case, if the company is purchasing the finished form of goods from outside the company, right, what you need to do, you have to add three items. What you need to do, you have to add the three items. First one is the opening balance of the finished goods, then purchases of the finished goods, and then the third one will be the cost of goods manufactured, right? Add all these three costs. Now here in the format, I haven't written that I haven't taken the provision for the purchases of finished goods. If it is given in the question, what you need to do, you have to write it here, right? In order to find out the total finished goods available for use, right? Now what you need to do, you have to deduct the finished goods closing balance or the ending balance in order to drive the cost of goods sold. Now the balance of the cost of goods sold will be written under the net sales, right? So that after subtracting the cost of goods sold from the net sales, you will reach to the gross profit figure. Add the other income if it is given in the questions. It could be the discount that you have received on the purchases of raw material, or the reduction or the decrease in the provision for doubtful debt. ठीक है, right? If there are more than one other income, add them in the second column and write its total balance just under the gross profit, right? That then finally what you need to do, you have to deduct the remaining expenses. The remaining expenses could be in the form of admin expenses, or selling and distribution expenses, marketing expenses, right? If these are given in that form, write it here, and deduct all these expenses from the total gross profit in order to reach towards the net profit. If the admin expense or the selling and distributing and the marketing expenses are not given or the expenses are not given according to the functions, then write whatever the expenses are given in your question, write it here, list down all the expenses given in the question, write in the second column, and make the total of all these expenses deducted from the total gross profit. Then you will be determined the net profit or the profit for the year. This is what all about for the manufacturing accounts. In my next lecture, I am going to solve a past paper question regarding the manufacturing accounts, inshallah. Okay. Hope this will help you while resolving your major concepts of regarding the manufacturing account. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.